What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dolphins Daily, your daily dose of Dolphins content with your boy Chris Kane. Let's talk about the Dolphins. People talking about Devon Achane a lot right now. I get it. I get it. He's the new hot kid on the block. Fantasy football is about to come out. Probably a top 5, 6 level running back. I get it. But sometimes people give you love, but they give it to you the way you don't need it, right? Some anonymous executive came out, which is like my most favorite term in the world, and they said, "Yeah, we'll see if Devon Achane can hold up. I mean, he runs really hard for a small guy. He should probably spend more time on the outside running." And I understand what they're saying, but you didn't have to say it like that. It's like, yeah, he's really good for for someone overcoming what he's overcoming. It's like, hey, we got it, we got it. And I understand the sentiment. Anytime there's a running back that's not 240 pounds, people assume, can you hold up? That's the number one question for running backs. Like, how long is your career going to last? And can you just physically hold up against the day to day grind? Anyone who watches football know the size of the running back does not determine if you end up playing for a long time or not. Not really. We have a lot of great running backs. Saquon Barkley has been 230 pounds his whole career and has played like two complete seasons in like seven. It's not a thing. Derrick Henry is obviously the biggest running back in the world, but he's missed a season with an injury. Like, it's a thing. But I understand the idea that if you're extra fast, you probably don't make your living inside the tackles. That makes sense. I'm here for it. But keep in mind, Devon Achane did play all 17 games last year. Now, he was concussed in week 5, but he was able to play in week 6 and had no other concussion symptoms the whole rest of the year. So, evidently, it was like a mild concussion because you know how we are about concussions in Miami. So for him to be cleared and play and then not have to go through the protocol again tells me that it was barely a concussion and maybe it wasn't even a concussion. We just like called it. We just said he had a head injury, whatever that looks like. But he did play every game last year at his size, and he did get a bigger workload because we basically stopped giving Raheem Mostert the ball, and Jalen Wright late in the year was just a ghost. He didn't have it. Jeff Wilson came in and spelled a little bit, but he did play every game last year. And I think his rookie year, he had a knee injury basically coming into the season. And so I think people are equating that with, oh, he's injury prone. When, I mean, he was drafted with an injury from college. It wasn't even a matter of, oh, the NFL beat him up and now he's hurt. He was already hurt coming into it. And a lot of guys are. I mean, how many first round picks this year were coming off injuries? And it's like, well, you know, when they get healthy, they're going to be great. That's Injuries are part of football. I think what this exec was trying to say, and I'm gonna give him shoot some bail right now, was that Devon should be used more in a passing game than a running game. I think that's what he was trying to say, because that makes sense. Again, I mentioned a Reggie Bush model that feels more comparable, even though Reggie's a bigger guy than Devon is. But the idea that you have good hands, that you're so good on the outside, that it's easier to flank you out, send you in the flat, send you down the field against a linebacker, than just have you run in between the tackles against 280 plus pound defensive tackles. Yes, that makes sense to me. But do I want Devon have 20 carries in between the tackles? No. I've told y'all many times. I think 12 to 15 carries, I want 5 to 7 like pass targets a game. Like, that's where I want him to be. If you told me he had 12 carries, 60 yards, 5 catches, 50 yards, we good. Like, that's and that's like on average. Obviously, he can break any pass or any run, so that number can balloon. But that's where I want him to be used. I want us to have 3 running backs because I want us to be able to spread the wealth. I do not want him to be worn down. He is not current day Derrick Henry. He is not he's not that guy that, hey, here come 30 carries. You ready? Like, if we did that, I would say we did something wrong. And knowing coach, he would probably change the offense on the fly to accommodate not having a running game. So, can he stay healthy for the whole year? I mean, if he plays like we did last year, then yeah. And I think he will have a lesser running back workload this year. So yeah, I think him. I don't see any reason why he would get hurt. If he didn't get hurt last year with a far inferior offensive line, with not as much running talent, with Tua being hurt, and he still played the whole year, I have no reason to believe that this year, with presumably a better offensive line, with more running back help, with the team being kind of make or break situation, that he won't hold up and play for longer this year. I have no reason to believe that. Oh no, I messed up. So A lot of people are talking about the Dolphins right now as a make or break kind of season, which I think is totally fair. I think the Dolphins have said it, like McDaniel, Tua, Chris Greer have all said it, that hey, all right, like we can only give you so much grace. You can only get the boy wonder tag. You can only get the well, he's coming off injury tag. You can only get the well, he did draft a couple good guys for so long. At a certain point, you do have to step up and do your job. And in this NFL, doing your job is making it to the playoffs and getting a couple wins. That can keep a career going forever. We all remember the infamous Jeff Fisher 8 and 8 years where he just couldn't get fired. That's not the days anymore. You can't just coach forever and not win and say, well, institutionally, we like what he's doing. Like, did the Marvin Lewis, Jeff Fisher days is done. And Jeff Fisher did go to the Super Bowl. Let's keep that in mind. But after the Super Bowl, he was a bum as a coach for a long time. And he wouldn't get fired. They just didn't do it. And then obviously we know what Cincinnati is about when it comes to spending money. They'd rather keep a bad coach than spend money on a good coach. But that's neither here nor there. So ESPN analyst Chris Canty got on the radio and he was talking about what this season means for what the Dolphins' philosophy has shown. Right? He said, "It's time for Mike McDaniel to show that this way of playing football can have success when it matters most in the NFL. This philosophy of pace and space, similar to what we talk about with NBA teams playing basketball on grass, you have to show that ends up leading to being able to have success once you get into the playoffs, being able to consistently get to the postseason." Now, I know some of y'all didn't haven't watched football to like the crazy degree, and you're like, "Who is Chris Canty?" Well, Chris Canty won the Super Bowl champ, played with the Giants, but he also played with the Cowboys and the Ravens. But I don't think his sentiment is the rest of the article. He goes on saying he doesn't believe that the Dolphins will do it, but I've never believed him to be like a Dolphins hater. I think he's a 6'7", 300 something pound defensive tackle who believes in winning in the trenches and being physical. So I think what the Dolphins do is antithetical to kind of how he played football. I mean, the Giants team that won the Super Bowl was just more physical. They just were dominant in the trenches. And I think he's like, yeah, that's kind of that's what I believe is winning football. What the Dolphins were attempting to do with this construction of the team is do what he said, play effectively basketball on grass. We're going to have super fast guys running in all directions. Tua is the point guard as the quarterback, and he has serves those guys, and they shoot threes, I guess, by just getting the ball and just getting out in space. That's why all of our receivers have been mostly small. That's why Tua gets the ball out so quick. That's why there's so much motion. Everything is essentially setting screens and passing the ball. These metaphors are getting mixed, but y'all get what I'm saying. And the truth is, we haven't won doing that yet in a way to show that that's a way that you can win. That's really what a critique is. Like, can this style of play actually like succeed at the highest level? It's gotten us in the playoffs. It's gotten us double digit wins. Is it good enough to eclipse the next thing? Right? I remember like watching the Chiefs when they did, I don't know who they were playing. When they were near the red zone, did that ring around the rosy play where everyone literally was just moving, like doing a circle, and then they like ran a play. And people were like, oh, the Chiefs are just playing with their food. But fundamentally, the Chiefs offense is pretty basic, right? Like not basic in the sense that it's easy to like dissect, but it's every play is off a play. Like it's very much built up. It's not a bunch of just randomized. Oh, like yes, Mahomes will throw the ball behind his back once a year. He'll do like some little flip on the sideline. That's Mahomes being Mahomes. But the tenets of the offense are foundational. It's Andy Reid for the last 30 years coaching. So even though we see the glitz and glamour like the hook and ladders and all that, the core of the offense is pretty basic stuff. It's that guy goes in motion, that guy picks this guy, they get open in the flat, make the throw. Like he rolls in motion, they run this right. Like it's basic stuff that Andy Reid's been doing his whole career. And then he makes adjustments because Andy Reid's like the GOAT, right? But what the Dolphins were trying to do was fundamentally different than everybody else. We had by far the most motion when McDaniel first became the coach. And people were like, can you do that kind of motion? Like people had to check the rules on what we were doing. Like, can you do that? And it's like, yeah, evidently you can have a running back line up as a tight end behind a guard, line up as a tight end, like behind the tackles, like shaded, and then spread. Like you can do a bunch of stuff like that. And people are like, I didn't know you can even do that as a play caller, but yeah, you can. And until we show that that's the way that you can really, really win, it looks really cool and it gets you success up to a certain point. Now it's time to see, can we go from that point to the next point? And that's where those December games and those games against physical teams really come in, where all that playing on like our style of play is built for our stadium, kind of how like the Rams were the greatest show on turf, but then you put them like outdoors and their offense wasn't as good. But on turf, fantastic. And I think what the Dolphins are trying to cultivate this year is, can we build a two-pronged attack? Obviously, we have fast receivers. Obviously, we have a quarterback that's accurate and gets the ball out quickly. When it gets going, when it gets tough, like, can we adjust? What happens if we have one of those normal Miami downpours? Like, you're gonna have three different ball flipping motions in the rain. That doesn't make any sense. It's almost certainly gonna be a fumble. So, how do you adjust to that? And the more of those adjustments we can make, then yes, the foundation of our team can still be the basketball on grass, but you do need to have some level of a second punch, that when the elements aren't good, if Tyreek or Waddle are out, that the offense still works. And then defensively, like, we just can't give up the big plays. If we just do those core little things, then yeah, I think we'll prove everybody wrong. This story hurts my heart for a lot of reasons, actually, because Asante Samuel Sr. is one of my favorite players ever. Y'all know I'm a cornerback guy, and not only that, he went to my alma mater at UCF. He's one of the guys that actually made it from us. So I have a lot of love and respect for Asante Samuel Sr. I think he probably should be in a not a Pro Bowl, in the Hall of Fame. Actually, I think Asante Samuel's been great. Like, he has the stats, he has a couple rings, but he has been known to pop off a little bit. If you remember, Asante Samuel Sr. was going at Dion earlier this year about like, hey, I feel like me and Dion are like this and this, and we were like, nah, that's prime. That's prime, big dog. Like, you were great, your stats are awesome. That's prime. And then they got on a pod and they kind of hashed it out. And he's gone at a bunch of people in at Chris Carter, and now he's coming at the Dolphins. And he's saying that basically the Dolphins are not a well-run organization. I'll let him tell it in his own words. He said they're sensitive. There's no leadership in the Dolphins organization. Mike McDaniel is a pushover. Chris Greer, the GM, has no backbone. They're running this team like a little league team. Ouch. Now, I do think a lot of this has to do with the fact that we've been courting his son, Asante Samuel Jr., and those negotiations haven't gone well. We don't know the terms because we haven't put the numbers out, and his side hasn't put the numbers out either. But apparently, the numbers have been disrespectful enough that Asante felt like, I need to jump out the window and say something to defend my son. I don't know if the numbers have been disrespectful. I do know he hasn't signed, but to be fair, he also hasn't signed anywhere else. So he might feel like the league as a whole has been disrespectful to his son. But if we were about to sign his son, I do not believe that's going to happen now. Now, when you come out and say the GM has no backbone, the coach is a pushover, hey, by the way, can you sign my boy? I don't think that's how that works. I think, oh, I think that's how that goes. The NFL is all about power and all about consolidation of like respect. And when you call it the GM and the coach of a team, I do not think there's any negotiations for, can you sign my son or not. Now, I will say that I like Asante Samuel Jr. and I would have loved for him to be on the team. I'm now assuming that he will not be. I don't like. There's this thing with like parents in sports where parents will jump out the window and say stuff. My belief has always been, for the most part, that the player, the kid in this case, has talked to their parents and the parents are jumping out. I know sometimes the parent is like maybe famous enough to kind of say what they want, but I don't believe that Samuel Jr. feels like the Dolphins have negotiated in good faith. Otherwise, he would say, "Dad, don't say this. You're gonna jeopardize my career." I believe he probably feels like, "Yo, Dad, they playing me with the offer. They're giving me this super incentive contract, and it's still not getting to my number. Like, they calling me, not calling me." And then Sunday Samuel Sr., as someone who's been in the league and played for Belichick and knows how to win, is saying, well, I don't know what they're doing over there. And now he's saying what he's saying. So that sucks because I like both players, but I do not believe Asante Samuel Jr. will be a Dolphin anytime soon because can't pop off against an organization like that and then say, give me money. That doesn't work like that. All right, let's get to your comments because these are always the fun part of the show. We'll hop right into it. What storyline have the Dolphins had that's been underreported recently that you think is really important to the success of the team? It's a long question. I think the Austin Jackson injury and recovery has not really been talked about a ton because we've been so fixated on the guard situation because it was god awful last year. The guard situation was god awful, and so we've gone out and drafted a guard and picked up two others. Like we said, hey, let's go get some guards to fill that position because we were bad in the interior. But Austin Jackson is coming off a pretty legitimate injury, and he's the right tackle. So he's actually to his blind side. I know in most teams the left guard is or the left tackle is, but at right tackle you're the blind side. And we assume Austin's going to recover and be great, and that he won't get nicked up and injured again. But we don't know. Like, no, sometimes people bounce back from an injury and it's like they never got hurt at all. Sometimes they come back and it's like, hey, I'm still a little gimpy. It didn't heal as well as it should have. We had to go in for a cleanup surgery. We don't have a really solid solution as a backup right tackle. Not one that we feel confident about. Could we plug someone in? Of course we could. But do we have a guy that's like, oh, if Austin can't play, we're good to go? Nah. I don't think we have that. I don't think any team, any like fan of the team can say that reasonably. So we are all knocking on wood and very optimistic he's going to be healthy because he got hurt early enough in the year that he should be able to bounce back. But I don't know. That's a story that we will see. I know we're talking about Daniels and his recovery and Jonah and him actually getting on the field, but that Austin Jackson story is kind of hanging out there, and we're gonna monitor the situation. We got to get it right. We'll see what's going on there. Finally, is there any way that Chris Greer can keep his job? I feel like he gets a lot of flack in the media unnecessarily. I don't know if it's unnecessarily, but I guess it depends. Like, Chris Greer has had his job, I think, longer than a lot of people thought he would have had his job. And I don't think he's done the worst moves this offseason. I think, like, I would not have paid Javon Holland. Like, I've said that. I said that when he wanted the contracts. I would not pay him. I think I would have liked to have gotten more for Ramsey. That didn't quite work out. I think the John monkey wrench was kind of out of the blue. That when we first started the channel, there was no talk of John in the contract. It was just like, yo, John was actually surprised last year. He balled out, Pro Bowler, but like, what a diamond in the rough we found. Then all of a sudden he wanted almost double the money, almost triple the money. And that kind of threw a monkey wrench in the whole situation. So I think some of that was, and also Teron Armstead retiring. There was an inclination that he might, but we were kind of hopeful that he wouldn't. And then when he did, it's like, ugh, another one. So there's a lot of things have happened I don't think were maybe the GM's fault, for lack of a better term. But I think considering all those things, we have moved in a pretty okay manner. If I told you we would get Minka, draft a guard, draft a D tackle, like we probably have another move at corner that we're gonna make at some point. If I like when we look back at the end of this offseason, pre the actual 2025 season, if we made a few other moves, I would say that he probably managed the books and the players as well as he could have, because ultimately the GM does what the owner says. And I'm pretty sure the owner said, "Hey, get that money in check." So if that's the case, then yes, financially we are more in check cap wise, and we got rid of some players that we liked or they retired or what have you, and then we set us up for the future. But if we don't win this year, then I think he's getting fired. So I think, could he keep his job? Yes, but it would take winning. I think him and McDaniel are more or less a package deal. I don't see a scenario where Chris Greer gets fired and then we keep Mike McDaniel on, because typically the GM that hired the coach and the coach are kind of like a thing. So I don't see. I really think it's based on what coach does. If Coach McDaniel does a good job, then Chris Greer keeps his job. If he doesn't, then they both lose their job. It's a hey, bad boys for life kind of situation, ride or die, baby. So yeah, he can keep his job, but we got to win. And I think it's making to the playoffs and at least one playoff win. I think if you do that, everybody keeps their job, everybody's happy. Knocked out in the first round depends. If it's like a last second field goal against like Buffalo in the first round and it's like a 7-2 matchup and it's like, we can't beat our rivals, maybe. But I think more likely than not, playoff win, that will keep everybody's job. That's what I think. But as always, guys, thank you for tuning in to Dolphins Daily. We appreciate the love and support. You guys have been killing it with the likes and subscribes lately. We really appreciate that. Keep spreading the word to your Dolphin fans. Let them know we're out here doing stuff. We'll see y'all next time on Dolphins Daily. Peace.